Well, welcome to Nice Room Education. We're delighted that you could join us today. I'm Pam Gothard, Professional Learning Director, and today we have Melissa Knowles with us, and she's going to be sharing with you about getting ready for President's Day, which is right around the corner. She has got some great lessons ready for you in StrataLogica. So if you have any questions or needs, please use the chat feature at the side panel, and we'll be glad to take care of those chat questions as we move through the process. So Melissa, would you go ahead now and share with us about those new lessons we're excited to see?
Great, I'm excited too. So President's Day is coming up on the 20th this year, and President's Day is a little bit of an unusual holiday and sometimes gets obscured, and definitely not to the caliber of some of the other holidays. So for students, it's still a very important lesson, and I know that a lot of our students at the school that I work at, I'm the librarian at a K-4 school, and they, may draw a picture, they may write a story about what they would do if they were president, learn about some of the president's lives. But I was wondering if my students knew what President's Day was all about and what the office of president really entails, especially with it being in the news so much lately. I wanted them to come to some sort of understanding, depending on age group, of what the president's job actually entails and about the history of President's Day. So pretty much the extent of their understanding as we talked about it was that it was a day that we honor presidents. So I really had to dig deeper with some of the questions that I was asking them. So I wrote this lesson with elementary students in mind. However, it could be adapted for older students also. I know my 7th grader does a president PowerPoint or some sort of presentation. So any age group can learn about the presidents. So here we go. I do definitely want to get the students ready anytime that I'm presenting something, especially something that, of course, they know who the president is, but they may not know some of the details. So what do you already know about President's Day? Do we celebrate a certain president or all of them? And of course, there's no right or wrong answer to that question, but how do you celebrate President's Day? Most of the kids just thought of it as a day off of school, and they just learn about the presidents around that. So I wanted to change that a little bit and just show them a little bit more about what President's Day really, how it started in our country, and what it means to us, especially now with it being in the news so much. So in order to access the lesson, I'm going to need you to log into StrataLogica, and of course you can do this now or later. Either way is fine. So if you log in, it will then take you to the home page, and that allows you then to access anything in StrataLogica uh, that you have subscribed to. It also has some great user guides, which are wonderful if you want to then go back and edit lessons. Help features, it shows you so much information right here. I love this part of StrataLogica where everything is on one page. So what we're going to go to is the community. In the community, actually, the lesson that I created is the last lesson that was created and added to StrataLogica, and I know that especially because I re-uploaded it today to make sure everything was right. So it's the last thing on there, so you shouldn't have to search for it. It should just pop up at the top currently. But if you do search for Presidents or President's Day under StrataLogica, you'll find a lot of options. So you'll find some different things about, there's one about presidents that has some videos about each president. There's several things. There's one about the Mount Rushmore. So lots of things if you search the community. Lots of people are sharing. You can see on the right there's 988 results, and this was a few weeks ago. So President's Day is coming. If you select that, it then will open up into a preview page which I also really enjoy. So before you've committed to it and copied it to your gallery, you have the option to then go through the slides, look at what the lesson entails. You can't open the pop-ups, but you can sort of see if it fits what you're wanting to do with your students. And you can also see then on the right a description, some details about it, how popular is it, what have other people rated it as, and you can see who created it, what series it was created in. So lots of different things here. And what I'm going to want you to do is to copy it to your gallery and use it on President's Day or around that time. So when you hit copy to my gallery, it'll then save. It'll then open up. Do you want to change the title, the description, and you can go ahead and then click copy again. So now to access your gallery, you're going to go to Maps. You'll then select your personal gallery, and you can see that once again, of course you can change this, but for ease of use and as a default, the most current thing you have been working on should be at the top. So that then was President's Day for me. So there's a couple ways and a couple things you can do then with this that I would like to show you. So you of course have the option to then, if you decide it's not for you, you have that delete button on the left. You can also choose edit. And I really like this because I have, as I said, K4. So if I only intended to use this with a certain group of grade levels, I could then edit the title so that it had 2 through 4, or remind myself that I wanted to use it week of this. So you can also then edit the description and add tags. Tags are great also for searching then to find the lesson later. If you really like the lesson and you want to utilize it year after year, you can then easily find it as you've created several more things, and it's probably down the list. So then if you do make any changes, hit save or cancel. And then we're going to open the lesson. Another way to open it is simply double click the title. So if you want to go through all that and not have to click too much, you can just double click that title and go straight to your lesson. So when it opens here, it opens then in edit mode, and you can see this is going to be the first slide of the presentation. So before we get too far into it, I would like to show you on the right some of those edit options. So I've zoomed into it just a little bit for you, and you can see then that you can switch to display. I'm going to show you that a little bit later in the presentation, what it actually looks like, but that switch to display then would be if you are actually working with it with students. The edit feature is good for then changing it and adapting it to meet the needs of your students. So you can also import a view that you've created. You can mesh multiple presentations or custom views together to then add to your lesson if you want to make it longer. My class is only 40 minutes, so I really wanted to utilize my time wisely and make it so that I could use it K through 4. So we didn't do as much with the kindergartners as we did with the 4th graders who went completely through in 40 minutes. So you can also add new slides. You can, of course, add anything, delete slides that you would like to delete. You can see by number 1, edit slide, you have on the right a little trash can. So if you don't want to use that slide and you don't want it cluttering up your presentation, just get rid of it. Underneath also you do have duration. It's set as a default at 3 seconds. So I didn't use that, but you can use that play mode once you get into the display mode. So I'll show you that in a little bit also. You also then have transition time of slow as a turtle or fast like a rabbit. Display allows you to add the title and description to the page, and I did utilize this with my students. My 2nd through 4th graders use the Chromebooks that we have to complete these lessons independently while I walked around, and then we would come together whole group. So they had some small group to whole group with that, and the title and description being displayed allowed them to have the instructions. So I utilized this with this particular lesson. And then you can see also that you can open your other slides. You'll have the same options with those. One other thing that I would like to show you is the purple square in the upper right hand corner. That will get rid completely of that edit window. So if you want it just to completely go away, you can use that and just send it away. Go ahead and get started in your lesson. So lots of features and lots of ways to create a custom lesson for you without having to do all the work. Well, so I decided to then show my students where the main two players in President's Day, the main two presidents are Washington and Abraham Lincoln. So I chose then to put each of the videos about the history of President's Day at the president's birthplaces. So having done that, then that gave the students one way to then relate the presidents to their birth area and their birthplace. So when they click the pin, it's going to then open up the videos. It doesn't really matter which one they do in order. I did put an order down at the bottom, and the questions are at George Washington's birthplace in Virginia. So they'll be under that video. But they are more than welcome to go look at the questions first, see what they're going to then be answering, and watch the videos after that. Some students work better when they know what's expected of them before they get into the learning aspect of it. So they're going to watch these two videos and answer the questions at the end. The first video that I selected at Lincoln's birthday is a history of our weirdest federal holiday, President's Day. So it's a really fun video about basically what President's Day has become and some of the history. So it's a great, fun learning tool. It was interesting to find videos that could span K through 4 for me. So I was able to find this one and I really enjoyed it. Then they'll go to Washington's birthplace in Virginia and select that pin. When they do that, they'll get another little bit more serious history of President's Day, just something to compare. They had some extra information on each of them, so I really liked both of them. Then they're going to answer the questions. So how has President's Day changed since it was signed into law? What are some events that you may see on President's Day? Our particular community doesn't do a whole community group activity, so that was important for my students to see how other places celebrate. And they did know, it was interesting, they did know about the sales that go on. There are a lot of sales around President's Day, and we talked about some of the things that went along with that and how that is incorporated into President's Day. So I did want to add in then, if it were your choice, how would you choose to honor the presidents on their holiday? So it's fun to see what the kids come up with and what they think, whether it's a grandeur or just, being with family. We had lots of different ways that they would celebrate, from the extreme to the more just simple and just thinking about how hard of the job the presidents have and all the decisions that they make. So it was really interesting to see what the students then came up with. Now, the wonderful thing with StrataLogica is the students could then answer it whole group. With you writing on the board, they could submit it in directly in StrataLogica using the toolbox at the bottom. So you can see the white arrow at the bottom is pointing to the toolbox, and that allows you then to add in text directly on the page. So they could then, answer those questions and then share and read what they have put on the page. So that is a wonderful feature, and the students love it because they feel so in control and they feel like they're doing it rather than waiting for you to write down everything. So it was neat then too. I would have them star by what they were going to say because they couldn't say everything that they had written down. And so that was a fun option using the symbols to then go ahead and plan what one thing they were going to say so that we could get to everybody in the amount of time that we have. So that was really interesting. All right, slide 2. Slide 2 we went into, and now of course I did adapt this. The main thing I wanted my younger students to see is then the changes in the president, which we're going to see in just a minute. We didn't go as much into the jobs of what the president does on a daily basis just due to time. But if they select then you see the title and description at the bottom, what power does the president really hold? I think a lot of things are out there that the students don't understand. And so I just wanted them to have some understanding of what the actual power of the president is. Then later we're going to go into more of the checks and balances with them because all the age groups don't get that, that it's not just one person or one group in the government. It's all of them. But the president's job is extremely important. So I want them to complete all 3 of the pop-up pen requirements on this page. So when they select jobs of the president, it opens up a read aloud book of what the president does. So I did give them some before watching and after watching, and then I wanted them to compare. It was important for me then to try to help the students understand what the jobs are. So they may not understand some of the terminology or some of the things that the president then does and the things that are actually given in the Constitution or the things that are just implied jobs that the president has or things that they've always done. So there were some definite misconceptions in what they thought the job of the president was. So this was a really eye-opener for the students and myself to see, what their thinking is. So it was neat to see then for them to then compare their differences, and we talked about some of the bigger differences that they had because we didn't have time to go into all of them. So it'd be neat then. I'm going to need to, as a librarian, go back and reiterate and make this information and this learning more concrete for them so that they can really have some things to attach onto it, especially as they're going in higher grade levels and getting more information. That I really want them to understand what this job is. We've also got some great resources that are databases that we've been using to research. So this has been a wonderful way to just intro that research, get them thinking about their questions, what they want to know. So this was a great part of the lesson, and in fact one of my favorites. So as we moved on, we went then into the changes in the president over time. And basically my idea here, although it's just so drastic no matter what president you pick, is how important this job is and how many responsibilities they have and how it just affects them. Of course, 8 years will age anyone, but it was neat even for the younger kids to see how the changes occurred. Why do you think these changes occurred? And that was, we got some interesting answers, but it was neat for the students to then see just how stressful, important. It's not just being a president and smiling on camera. There's a lot of things that weigh on the president, and they have to really, decide over, and just, we then related that to our principal and how he has the whole school that he's responsible for and that he thinks about. And so anyway, that was an interesting thing, and also just fun to see the differences and the changes over time and how the presidents look and how the job sometimes affects. And the students would bring up then too how their parents would say, you know, you're making my hair gray. We got some funny stories, but ultimately my goal there, which I reiterated at the end, was just how important the job is, which is why they have a special day that we do celebrate the presidents. And of course, I had to add in some fun facts. There's all sorts of presidential fun facts, but this was a fun one made by the History Channel. And it is just simply text, no sound. So I did have to read it to my younger students, but that was okay. We really enjoyed some of the pictures and the differences and the types of pets they have, and just some fun things to lighten up the mood. And those students that really absorbed those facts, I heard them then telling other kids in the physical education line, oh, did you know this about this president? So that was fun to see that they had taken away the things that had impacted them. Just some interesting facts about our president. So after they've completed all these requirements, which my fourth graders were the only ones that went completely through all 3 lessons, so, and that was okay. So we're going to move to the third slide. And here is where I wanted them to choose a president, research using those databases that we've been utilizing to practice researching, but for them to actually then use their Chromebook, do it on their own, go cross up a president's name, and I just used a printout that I got off the internet of the list of the presidents. So super easy. They crossed it off, they researched where the president was born, added a pop-up and the president's name to that location. We continued until all the presidents were added on the map, and then we noticed our data. What have we collected? So most of the presidents obviously were on the East Coast. Why? You know, we talked about that, and of course they haven't gotten into a lot of the history because in Alabama we do Alabama history in 4th grade. So as far as going west, they hadn't they weren't able to make a timeline of when that was happening in history. So it was interesting to bring up some things that they hadn't thought about, but just seeing, oh, which state did most of the presidents come from, and just utilizing information to then analyze it, practice our skills, collect data, and just learn some interesting things about our presidents. So this was a fun lesson. Like I said, we did not get to it with everyone. There is, as I said, another president's presentation that's out there, or custom view. I'm not sure which one it is, but it has all of the presidents already labeled. So if you didn't have time for that, you could pull up that slide, and then it has videos that go along with each of the presidents at each birthplace. So if you wanted to forego the step of actually doing the research and having the students do the research themselves, then it is available to you already in your community. Now this is the display mode that I told you about. So here you just have a list of the slides. You can go ahead and go through autoplay. You can completely get rid of it if you want to. Autoplay rarely works for me because I never know when kids are going to say something. And so, you know, if it was something that I wanted to just run over and over, then I would definitely use the autoplay. But in general, when I'm doing a lesson, the autoplay just doesn't work for me because I'm stopping and I need that time to then answer questions or I don't know, let's find it out, you know, typical teacher questions. So that is something that I use, but I do use the display mode more than the edit mode just because I don't want that distraction there for the kids, or I completely use the purple double white arrows on the right to get rid of it completely and have the entire screen for the lesson. So now if you decide to then edit and make changes, don't forget to go under the action menu, save your presentation. You can save if you want to change the title and description, you can use the save as. You can then send your presentation to colleagues in your grade level to see if they want to utilize it also. You can see who it has been sent to. You can add notes. Maybe you had a good idea or something didn't work that you wanted to add a note in there just to remind yourself next time you use it. I love that feature too. And then you can always share your presentation if a student's absent, or if you want to just share it online on your Twitter, Facebook, email. You can then also share your presentation there. So if you have any questions, I'd love to see them in the chat box, or I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I really enjoyed this, especially with so much in the news. The students had a lot to say about what was going on, which is good that they're paying more attention to it and they hear a lot of things. But I did want them to definitely leave this lesson with an understanding, of course, of what President's Day is, and an understanding of then what the president's job holds and what being a president means in the United States. So thank you. I really enjoyed talking with you today, and I hope you have a great day.